The transmission cut out mid-scream. Commander Jake Morrison watched the holographic display flicker and die as Earth's last diplomatic vessel vanished from sensors. 300 souls gone in an instant. The Council had just executed humanity's peace delegation in open space. "Sir, we're detecting multiple jump signatures," Lieutenant Kate Warren said, her voice tight. 47 Council warships dropping out of hyperspace. They're forming an invasion formation around the Sol system. Morrison's jaw clenched. The betrayal was complete. For 15 years, humanity had negotiated, compromised, and bent the knee to the Galactic Council's demands. They dismantled their weapons, reduced their fleet, and trusted in diplomatic solutions. The Council had smiled, signed treaties, and promised protection. All lies. "How long until they reach Earth?" Morrison asked. 18 minutes at current speed, Warren replied. The bridge of the orbital defense station fell silent. 18 minutes. That was all the time left before the Council's armada began orbital bombardment. 6 billion people on the surface had no idea what was coming. The defense grid had been deactivated per Council regulations. Earth's military had been reduced to ceremonial status. Morrison pulled up the tactical display. His station had exactly 12 functional railguns and a skeleton crew of 60. Against 47 capital ships, each carrying enough firepower to crack a continent. "Commander, incoming transmission from the Council flagship," the communications officer announced. The hologram materialized. High Chancellor Vex appeared, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been amusement. "Human Morrison, your species has been deemed a contamination risk to galactic civilization. The Council has voted unanimously for sterilization protocols. Surrender your station, and we will make your end swift." Morrison stared at the alien who had shaken his hand at a dozen diplomatic functions. "You're making a mistake, Vex." "The mistake was allowing your kind to spread beyond your birth world," Vex hissed. "You will serve as an example to other primitive species who dare to reach for the stars." The transmission ended. Warren turned to Morrison, her face pale. "Sir, what are our orders?" Morrison pulled up a communication channel he'd hoped never to use, a channel that officially didn't exist. A frequency that every military officer had been told was a training exercise artifact from the old days. "This is Morrison, Defense Station 7, authorization code Phoenix 9-7 Black," he said into the void. "The Council has betrayed Earth. They're coming for us all. If anyone can hear this, we need you now." Static answered him for 3 long seconds. Then a voice crackled through, calm and cold. "Morrison, this is Captain Linda Hayes aboard the Independence." "We hear you. We've all heard you. The Council made their choice. Now they face ours." The tactical display suddenly erupted with new contacts. Not dozens, hundreds, thousands. Ships materialized from nowhere, emerging from quantum stealth fields that shouldn't exist, according to Council technology restrictions. Dreadnoughts, the size of cities, carriers bristling with fighter wings, destroyer squadrons moving in perfect formation. Morrison's hands trembled as he read the identification codes. Every ship bore human registry. The fleet humanity supposedly never built. The weapons humanity supposedly never developed. The military force that had been hidden, waiting, preparing for the day trust, failed. Vex's voice burst through all channels, screaming. "This is impossible! You dismantled your fleet." "The treaties were signed by politicians," Hayes interrupted, her voice carrying across every frequency. "We're soldiers. We remember history, and we never trusted you." The human fleet swept forward. The Council armada tried to turn, their ships sluggish and unprepared. They'd expected a massacre, not a battle. High Chancellor Vex's flagship, the Eternal Truth, fired its main particle cannons at the approaching human vessels. The weapons that had leveled 100 rebellious worlds blazed across the void. The human ships didn't even slow down. Captain Linda Hayes stood on the bridge of the Independence, a dreadnought that officially had been scrapped 30 years ago. In reality, it had been the first of humanity's shadow fleet, built in hidden shipyards beyond Neptune's orbit, where Council inspectors never looked. "Shields holding at 97%, reported Lieutenant Commander Greg Palmer from the defensive station. "Their particle weapons are below our threshold." Hayes allowed herself a cold smile. The Council had given humanity their technology restrictions based on Council physics. They'd assumed human scientists would obey the same limitations that bound every other species. They'd been wrong. Humanity had taken Council technology, torn it apart, rebuilt it, and improved it in ways the Council's rigid, tradition-bound civilizations never imagined. "Target their flagship," Hayes ordered. "Magnetic accelerator cannons, full spread." The Independence's main guns had been designed by human engineers who'd studied every Council battle on record. The magnetic accelerator technology bypassed energy shields entirely, using gravitational manipulation to punch through defensive screens like they weren't there. 6 tungsten carbide slugs, each massing 10 tons, crossed the distance in 2.3 seconds. They struck the Eternal Truth amidships, tearing through shields, armor, and hull structure. The flagship's reactor containment failed, and the ship transformed into a brief new star. "Flagship destroyed," Palmer confirmed. "Council formation is breaking. 17 ships attempting to flee. 20 Dubrays moving to engage. 7 are dead in space." "All ships open fire," Hayes commanded. "No survivors, no mercy." They chose this. Across the battle space, the human fleet unleashed hell. Railguns that fired at 0.3% light speed. Plasma torpedoes that burned at temperatures found in stellar cores. Directed energy weapons that could slice through capital ships like knives through silk. And the newest addition, quantum disruptors that collapsed the exotic matter cores Council ships used for faster-than-light travel. Commander Jake Morrison watched from Defense Station 7 as the battle unfolded. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. A Council heavy cruiser, the Righteous Wind, attempted to target Earth itself. Before it could fire, 3 human destroyers materialized from quantum stealth directly above it. Their combined firepower reduced the cruiser to debris in 4 seconds. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls from the Council ships," Warren said, her voice uncertain. "They're requesting terms of surrender." Morrison thought of the peace delegation vaporized without warning. He thought of the 18 minutes the Council had given Earth to exist. Denied. Hayes gave the order. No survivors. The battle lasted 11 minutes. 47 Council ships entered the Sol system. None left. Hayes stood amid the wreckage, her tactical display showing the debris fields where the enemy had been. "Communications, open a channel to Council space. Wide broadcast, all frequencies." "Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Linda Hayes of the United Earth Fleet to the Galactic Council. You declared war on humanity. You attempted genocide. You have failed. Earth stands. Your fleet is destroyed. Tell your masters that humanity remembers betrayal, and humanity answers it with extinction. You wanted to make an example. Consider the lesson learned." She cut the transmission. "Navigator, plot a course for the Vex homeworld. We're not done." "Captain, the Vex system is 47 light-years away," the navigator protested. "The Council will have time to mobilize their entire navy." "Good," Hayes said. "I want them to see us coming. I want them to gather every ship they have. I want them to feel hope that numbers might save them. And then I want them to understand how badly they miscalculated." The Independence's quantum drive spun up, reality bending around the massive vessel. Around it, 500 human warships did the same. They'd spent decades in secret, building and training for a war they hoped would never come. Now that it had arrived, they would prosecute it with absolute ruthlessness. On Earth, President Nicole Carter stood in the Situation Room beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching the fleet depart. Her face was grim. She'd been one of the politicians who'd signed the treaties, who'd believed in peace. She'd been a fool. "Madam President, we're receiving communications from 63 council member species," her chief of staff said. "They're all demanding explanations, threatening sanctions, calling for—" "Tell them all the same thing," Carter interrupted. "Humanity is no longer a council-client species. We are no longer bound by council law, and any species that sides with those who tried to exterminate us will share their fate. Make it clear, make it very clear." Across human space, the remaining defense fleets mobilized. The secret shipyards, hidden for decades, went into full production. Humanity had 6 billion people on Earth, another 2 billion spread across Mars, Europa, and the outer colonies. Every one of them now understood that the universe was not kind, not fair, and not safe. But humanity had never needed the universe to be any of those things. Humanity just needed enemies to point at. The Independence jumped to faster-than-light speed, its escorts following in perfect formation. Behind them, Earth's orbital defenses activated fully for the first time, weapons systems coming online that the Council had never known existed. Automated defense platforms, each capable of destroying a cruiser, materialized from stealth positions throughout the system. Morrison stood on his station and watched the human fleet vanish into quantum space. He pulled up the data archives, looking at the files marked Black Phoenix Protocol, the contingency plans humanity had maintained since first contact with the Council. The backup plans upon backup plans, the hidden fleets, the secret weapons, the prepared strategies. Humanity had smiled, had negotiated, had pretended to be weak and compliant, and all the while had prepared for the day the knife came for their backs. That day had arrived. The Council would learn what humanity had known since its first civilizations rose from the dirt. Trust was a luxury. Paranoia was survival. And when threatened with extinction, humans didn't surrender. They multiplied the threat until nothing remained but ash and memory. The war had begun, and humanity intended to finish it. The Vex homeworld, called Nexara by its inhabitants, orbited a binary star system 47 light-years from Earth. It was home to 17 billion Vex, the founding species of the Galactic Council. Their civilization had lasted 12,000 years, surviving wars, plagues, and cosmic disasters. They considered themselves the pinnacle of galactic evolution, the wise shepherds guiding younger species toward enlightenment. They had 6 hours before humanity arrived to teach them otherwise. High Strategos Krill stood in the Grand Defense Coordinator's chamber, watching the tactical displays with growing dread. After the destruction of the Sol invasion fleet, the Council had immediately mobilized every available warship. 347 capital ships now surrounded Nexara in a defensive sphere. Another 800 vessels were racing toward the system from garrison posts across Council territory. "They'll arrive with perhaps 100 ships," Krill told the assembled Defense Committee. "Our intelligence suggests Earth's entire military force numbered no more than 700 vessels. They've committed most of their strength to this attack. We have numerical superiority, defensive positions, and the benefit of fighting in our home system, where every tactical advantage favors us." The committee members, representing the Council's 12 founding species, nodded in agreement. The Torva delegate, Ambassador Hess, raised a clawed hand. "What of the weapons they demonstrated at Salspaw? Our ships proved ineffective against their shield technology." "Our engineers have analyzed the battle data," Krill replied. "The humans use gravitic manipulation in their defensive screens, something our particle weapons cannot penetrate effectively. However, we've adapted. Our ships are now equipped with kinetic kill vehicles and thermal weapons that bypass gravitic shielding. We've also implemented quantum-entangled communication nodes that prevent the jamming the humans employed against our Sol fleet. It all sounded logical. It all made sense. Krill had fought in 17 campaigns, commanded fleets that had pacified entire sectors. He knew warfare, knew tactics, knew how to calculate odds and exploit advantages. But something cold had settled in his chest since watching the battle recordings from Sol. The efficiency, the precision, the absolute ruthlessness. The human fleet had fought like nothing he'd encountered before, like machines designed solely for destruction, with no hesitation, no mercy, no traditional military honor. High Strategos, we're detecting quantum distortions at the system's edge, a sensor operator announced. Multiple ships dropping from faster than light. Confirmed human signatures. How many? Krill demanded. The operator's voice shook. Computer is still counting. Current estimate, 800 vessels. 900. 1,000, sir. They're still arriving. The command chamber fell silent. Every council species had technological restrictions, rules enforced by tradition, and physics that limited ship construction rates, maximum fleet sizes, and weapons development. The council had given humanity those same restrictions, had monitored their compliance through inspectors and treaties. Humanity had ignored every single rule. Final count, 1,237 ships, the operator reported. Dreadnought-class vessels, carrier groups, destroyer wings, and multiple vessel types we don't have classifications for. Krill stared at the display. The human fleet outnumbered the Council's defensive force 3-1. How? Our inspectors reported full compliance. Our intelligence showed no major shipyards beyond their civilian facilities. They lied, Ambassador Hess said simply. They've been building this fleet for decades, hiding it somehow. The question now is what we do about it. Captain Linda Hayes watched Nexara grow larger in the Independence's view screen. The planet was beautiful, she had to admit. Oceans of deep purple, continents covered in silver vegetation, 2 moons casting double shadows across the surface. 17 billion civilians live down there, unaware that their leader's decision to commit genocide against Earth would now come home to roost. Captain, the Council fleet is moving to intercept, Commander Greg Palmer reported. They're forming a standard defensive shell around the planet. 347 capital ships, all broadcasting active targeting locks on our lead elements. Defensive posture, Hayes said. They're trying to protect their homeworld. Admirable, but tactically obsolete. What's the status of the extinction protocol weapons? Palmer hesitated. Captain, are you certain? The civilian population committed no crime except being ruled by genocidal maniacs, Hayes finished. I know, Commander. That's why I'm asking about the weapons, not ordering their deployment. Yet. First, we give them a chance to be smarter than their leaders. She opened a wideband transmission. Council Defense Fleet, this is Captain Hayes of Earth. You attempted to exterminate my species. Your fleet, at Sol, was destroyed. You now face the consequences of that decision. I offer one chance, and one chance only. Surrender your vessels immediately, land all armed forces on the surface, and deactivate your planetary defenses. You have 10 minutes to comply. After that, we will demonstrate why attempting to genocide humanity was the last mistake your civilization will ever make. The response came from High Strategos Krill himself. Human Hayes, you are outnumbered. You face the combined might of 12 species military forces. Your threats are empty. Withdraw now, and we may negotiate terms of your survival. Hayes smiled, cold and hard. Wrong answer. All ships execute Cascade Protocol. The human fleet didn't advance. Instead, Each vessel launched a single missile. 1,237 projectiles streaked toward the Council defensive line. The Council ships opened fire, point defense systems tracking and destroying the incoming missiles with practiced efficiency. They destroyed every single one. Krill watched with satisfaction as the last missile detonated harmlessly against defensive fire. Then, the real attack began. Each destroyed missile had been carrying 50 smaller submunitions. Each submunition carried quantum-entangled navigation and 50 micro-warheads. The cascade effect meant that 1237 missiles became 61,850 submunitions, which became 3 million micro-warheads, all appearing simultaneously across the Council defensive sphere. The micro-warheads weren't nuclear. They were antimatter pellets, each containing exactly 1 gram of anti-iron. When they struck Council's shields and hulls, matter met antimatter in perfect annihilation. The explosions were small, individually, but 3 million of them, detonating across 347 ships within a 2-second window, created a cascade of shield failures and hull breaches. Council fleet is in disarray, Palmer reported. 73 ships destroyed outright. 119 suffering critical damage. The remainder are attempting to regroup. Second wave, Hayes ordered. Magnetic accelerators target their capital ships, plasma torpedoes on the carriers, quantum disruptors on anything trying to jump out system. The human fleet opened fire in earnest. The weapons that had annihilated the Sol invasion force now tore through the Council's defensive line like a chainsaw through tissue. Ships that had survived dozens of battles, that had been built to Council specifications and armed with Council weapons, discovered that human engineering had leapfrogged their technology by decades. Krill watched his fleet die. He'd trained for this. He'd studied every major battle in Council history. None of it mattered. The humans fought with a combination of overwhelming firepower and tactical innovation that rendered traditional military doctrine useless. "All ships break formation," he ordered desperately. "Scatter and engage independently. Don't let them concentrate fire." The Council fleet fragmented, ships peeling away in all directions. It was the right tactical call. Against a conventional enemy, dispersal would force the attackers to split their forces, reducing their advantage. The human fleet didn't split up. They accelerated straight through the Council formation, their shields absorbing fire that would have crippled any other vessel. As they passed Council ships, they fired at point-blank range, railgun slugs punching through hulls, plasma weapons reducing armor to molten slag. "They're heading for the planet," Ambassador Hess said, his voice hollow. "They're going to bombard Nexara." But the human fleet didn't bombard the planet. They stopped in high orbit, maintaining perfect formation, weapons trained downward, but not firing. Hayes opened another transmission. "People of Nexara, your fleet is destroyed. Your leaders ordered the extermination of Earth. We have demonstrated our ability to end your world. But we are not genocidal. We are not the monsters your Council claimed we were. We will accept your unconditional surrender. Every Council military installation will be dismantled. Every warship will be turned over to human control. Your species will be subject to Earth law until we determine you pose no further threat. Refuse, and we will reduce this planet to radioactive ash. You have 1 hour to decide." Krill stood amid the wreckage of his command center, alarms blaring, displays showing the broken remnants of the Council's greatest fleet. His hands trembled. What have we done? What they had done, he realized too late, was wake a sleeping giant. And giants, once roused, were very hard to put back to sleep. The surrender came 47 minutes later. High Premier Voss, the civilian leader of the Vex government, transmitted the formal capitulation herself. Her 3 eyes glistened with what might have been tears as she announced that Nexara would comply with all human demands. Council military installations across the planet began powering down. Ships landed. Soldiers laid down arms. Captain Linda Hayes watched the planet's defenses go dark one by one. Part of her had expected them to fight to the last. Part of her had almost wanted them to, wanted the justification to unleash the full arsenal humanity had built. But the smarter, colder part of her recognized that a quick surrender saved lives and resources that would be needed elsewhere. "Ma'am, we're receiving transmissions from 68 council member species," the communications officer reported. "Most are requesting immediate diplomatic contact. 17 are declaring neutrality. 9 are." He paused, checking the data. "Pledging allegiance to Earth and requesting protection from council reprisals." "The coalition is fracturing," Commander Greg Palmer observed. "They built their entire structure on the assumption that the founding species were untouchable. We just touched them. Hard." Hayes nodded. "Get me a secure channel to President Carter. She needs to know we're about to get very popular very quickly." And popularity in galactic politics usually means everyone wants something from you. On Earth, President Nicole Carter stood in the war room, surrounded by advisors, military commanders, and the heads of every major governmental department. The holographic display showed the tactical situation across council space. Green markers indicated human-controlled systems. Red showed council strongholds. Yellow marked neutral territories. And blue, the color that had started appearing in the last 6 hours, indicated species pledging to Earth. "We've gone from pariah species to potential hegemon in less than 2 days, General Marcus Webb said, his weathered face showing disbelief. 12 species have requested Earth military protection. Another 30 want trade agreements. The Torva are offering to turn over their entire intelligence network in exchange for clemency." Carter rubbed her temples. "We're not prepared for this. We built a military to defend ourselves, not to govern half the galaxy." "Then we need to prepare quickly," Admiral Richard Stone interjected. "The Council won't surrender without exhausting every option. They still have reserve fleets, client species with military forces, and who knows what secret weapons they've been developing. We won Nexara. We haven't won the war." Carter knew he was right. "What's Hayes' assessment?" "She's recommending we establish forward operating bases in key council systems," Webb replied. "Not occupation, but strategic positioning. We show strength, demonstrate we can project power anywhere in council space, and we do it before they regroup." "That's a lot of ships spread across a lot of territory," Carter said. "We'll be vulnerable to counterattack if they mass their forces." "Ma'am, if I may." A new voice spoke up. It was Dr. Alan Chen, head of the Black Phoenix Research Division, the secret program that had developed most of humanity's military technology. "We have assets we haven't deployed yet. The fleet Hayes commands is Generation 1 technology, ships built 20 to 30 years ago. Gen 2 has been in production for 5 years. Gen 3 is ready for field trials." Carter stared at him. "How many generations did you plan?" 5, Chen admitted. "We assumed if the Council ever turned on us, we'd need overlapping technology advantages to compensate for their industrial base and numerical superiority. Each generation represents a quantum leap in capability. What Hayes used to destroy the Nexara defense fleet would be considered obsolete by our current standards." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity hadn't just built a secret fleet. They'd built a secret arms race against themselves, constantly improving, constantly innovating, preparing for a war that might never come. And now that it had come, they had weapons their enemies couldn't imagine. "How long until Generation 2 can deploy?" Carter asked. 48 hours for the first battle group. 2 weeks for full fleet deployment. Do it. And Dr. Chen, start planning Generation 6. I don't want us getting comfortable." Across the galaxy, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session on their capital world of Unity Prime. The massive chamber that once held representatives from 347 species now felt empty. 68 species had withdrawn their delegations. 9 had openly defected. The rest sat in shocked silence as they watched humanity redraw the galactic order. Chancellor Supreme Tex, a Corvani who had led the council for 30 years, addressed the assembly. "We face an existential crisis. Humanity has demonstrated military superiority beyond our projections. They have shattered our fleet at Nexara. They hold one of our founding worlds hostage. If we do not respond decisively, the Council will collapse, and humanity will dictate terms to the entire galaxy." Ambassador Vren of the Hakesh stood. "What response do you propose? They destroyed our best fleet in hours. Our intelligence suggests they have hundreds more ships we haven't seen. Every military projection shows catastrophic losses if we engage them directly." "Then we don't engage them directly," Thex replied. "We have client species with military forces. We have mercenary fleets. We have allies who owe us favors. We mobilize everything. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. We threw everything at humanity until they drown in numbers." "That could mean billions of casualties," Vren protested. "Better billions of non-council species than the collapse of our civilization," Thex said coldly. "We will paint humanity as the aggressors, the genocidal monsters. We will turn every species in the galaxy against them, and we will use every tactic, every strategy, every weapon at our disposal. If we must sacrifice 100 species to preserve the Council, so be it." The vote passed with a simple majority. The Council would wage total war. They would mobilize every asset, call in every favor, and spend every life necessary to stop humanity's expansion. It was a decision born of fear and desperation, the choice of a dying empire that would rather burn the galaxy than accept its own decline. On Nexara, Captain Hayes received the intelligence report about the Council's decision. She read it twice, then called a staff meeting. Her senior officers gathered in the Independence's briefing room, their faces grim. "They're going to throw everything at us," Hayes said, without preamble. "Client species, mercenaries, reserve fleets, probably some secret weapons they've been saving. The projections suggest they could mass between 3,000 and 5,000 ships within a month. Our current fleet strength is 1,237 ships," Palmer noted. "Even with Generation 2 deployment, we'll be outnumbered 2-to-1 at minimum." Hayes smiled. It wasn't a happy expression. "Then we don't fight fair. We hit them before they can mobilize. We strike their shipyards, their supply depots, their staging areas. We make it impossible for them to mass their forces. And we make every species that considers joining them understand the price of that decision." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Brooks, the tactical officer, pulled up a star chart. "I've identified 73 critical infrastructure targets across Council space. Shipyards, fuel refineries, weapons manufacturing centers. If we take them out, the Council's ability to wage sustained warfare drops by 60%. "How long to hit all 73 targets?" Hayes asked. "Simultaneously, we'd need to split the fleet into strike groups. Risky, but doable. 48 hours for the operation." Hayes nodded. "Make it happen. We're going to teach the Council what total war actually means. They wanted to exterminate us? Fine. We'll exterminate their ability to make war. Every shipyard, every factory, every military installation. Gone. And then we'll see if they still want to fight." The human fleet began to disperse, ships jumping to faster than light across dozens of vectors. The campaign that would later be called the 73-Hour War was about to begin. And when it was over, the Galactic Council would learn that humanity didn't just fight wars. Humanity industrialized them. The attacks began simultaneously across 73 systems. Human strike groups emerged from quantum space with perfect timing, their targeting data preloaded, their weapons hot. They didn't broadcast demands for surrender. They didn't offer chances to evacuate. They simply destroyed everything with military value and jumped back out before defensive forces could respond. At the Corvani shipyards above Corvin Prime, 3 human destroyers appeared at 0400 local time. They fired magnetic accelerator rounds into the orbital construction facilities, then launched plasma torpedoes into the fuel depot that supplied the entire sector. The shipyard, capable of producing 15 capital ships per year, became an expanding cloud of debris. The destroyers jumped out 18 minutes after arriving. Total Corvani casualties: 4,312. Ships destroyed, 3 battle cruisers under construction, 17 escort vessels, and 1 command carrier. At the Vex Military Academy on Secundus, a human carrier group deployed autonomous combat drones that methodically demolished every military building, training facility, and weapons depot on the planet. They avoided civilian areas with surgical precision, but the academy that had trained council officers for 2,000 years was reduced to rubble in 6 hours. At the Terexus ammunition foundries in the Outer Reach, human ships used quantum disruptors to collapse the exotic matter cores that powered the facilities. The resulting implosions created localized gravitational anomalies that tore the foundries apart from the inside out. Taraxes had supplied the council with munitions for 300 years. Now they supplied nothing but scrap metal. The pattern repeated across council space. Humanity's strike groups moved like ghosts, appearing without warning, destroying strategic targets with overwhelming force, and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The council tried to respond, scrambling defense fleets to intercept, but human intelligence was always one step ahead. Every defensive deployment arrived at empty space. Every ambush found nothing but sensor shadows. Chancellor Supreme Thex watched the reports flood in from his command center on Unity Prime. 73 targets. 73 successes. In less than 3 days, humanity had crippled the Council's military-industrial complex. Shipyards that took decades to build were gone. Fuel refineries that supplied entire fleets were destroyed. Weapons stockpiles that represented centuries of production had been vaporized. How? He asked the tactical advisors surrounding him. How did they know where to hit? How did they coordinate across such distances? How did they penetrate our defenses so easily? Admiral Kress of the Hakesh provided the answer. Their intelligence network is better than ours. Their technology is superior. Their planning is meticulous. And most importantly, they're willing to do what we never imagined. They're not trying to conquer territory or force political changes. They're destroying our ability to make war. It's a strategy we've never encountered because it requires industrial capacity we don't possess and ruthlessness we've never seen. Then we sue for peace, Ambassador Vren suggested. We negotiate terms before they decide to move beyond military targets. No, Thex said firmly. The moment we surrender, the Council is finished. Every species in the galaxy will see that. Humanity can dictate terms to us. Our authority, built over millennia, will evaporate. We fight on! With what? Ren demanded. They've destroyed our shipyards. Our reserve fleets are scattered and demoralized. Our client species are abandoning us. What exactly do we fight with? Thex pulled up a classified file, Project Omega. It was authorized 800 years ago as an absolute last resort weapon. We've never deployed it because the cost was deemed too high. But if humanity won't stop, we'll use it. Kress examined the file, his facial tendrils paling. This weapon could sterilize entire systems. It violates every treaty we've ever signed, including ones we enforced on others. Desperate times, Thex said. Prepare, Omega, for deployment. Target Earth's solar system. We'll give humanity one chance to surrender. If they refuse, we eliminate their homeworld, even if it costs us our moral authority, even if every species condemns us. At least the Council will survive. The message reached President Carter 6 hours later. It was delivered by a Torva diplomat who had defected to Earth, his hands shaking as he transmitted the data. Project Omega, Dr. Alan Chen explained after analyzing the specifications, is a weaponized stellar manipulation device. It induces controlled instability in a star, causing it to emit a gamma-ray burst. The burst sterilizes everything in a 30-light-year radius. It's genocide on a scale that makes our worst nightmares look merciful. Carter felt ice flood her veins. Can they actually build this? Is it theoretical or operational? According to these files, they built 3 prototypes 800 years ago. All 3 are in storage on Unity Prime. If they're willing to use them, they could target Sol, and we'd have no way to stop it. The devices activate remotely. The star goes unstable, and 6 hours later, everything in the system is dead. How long to develop a countermeasure? Chen shook his head. Weeks at minimum. The physics are exotic, even by our standards. We'd need time we don't have. Carter looked at the assembled military command. Options? General Marcus Webb spoke first. We hit Unity Prime. Full fleet assault. We destroy those weapons before they can deploy them. Unity Prime is the most heavily defended system in Council space, Admiral Stone countered. They'll be expecting us. It'll be a bloodbath. Then we make it a bloodbath they can't survive. Captain Hayes' voice came through the comm. She'd been listening to the briefing remotely from the Independence. We commit every ship we have. Generation 1, Generation 2, everything. We don't fight to capture the planet. We fight to destroy those weapons and anyone who might rebuild them. Carter closed her eyes. This was the decision she'd dreaded since the war began. Commit to total victory or risk extinction? Do it. Hit Unity Prime. Destroy Project Omega. And once we've done that, we keep going until the Council surrenders unconditionally or ceases to exist. No half measures. No negotiated peace. We end this. The human fleet began to converge on Unity Prime. Every ship, every weapon, every innovation humanity had developed in decades of secret preparation. The battle that would decide the war was about to begin. Unity Prime's defenders watched them come. 500 Council ships, the last concentrated force the Council could muster, arrayed themselves in defensive positions. They knew they were outnumbered. They knew humanity's technology was superior. But they also knew that if they failed, the Council's 3,000-year reign would end. The 2 fleets met in the space above Unity Prime. This time, there was no demand for surrender, no speeches, no diplomatic posturing, just the cold mathematics of war. Human ships with weapons that shouldn't exist. Council ships fighting for survival. And between them, the fate of galactic civilization. The battle lasted 14 hours. It was brutal, chaotic, and absolutely one-sided. Human ships tore through Council defenses like they weren't there. Every tactical advantage the Council tried to exploit, humanity countered, with technology or strategy the Council couldn't match. Generation 2 ships proved even more devastating than Generation 1. Their weapon systems so advanced that Council ships literally couldn't defend against them. When it ended, Unity Prime's orbital defenses were gone. The Council fleet was debris, and human Marines were landing on the planet's surface, their mission simple: find and destroy Project Omega. They found the weapons in a bunker 3 kilometers beneath the Council's central government complex. 3 devices, each capable of killing a star. The Marines placed charges, retreated to minimum safe distance, and detonated. The explosion collapsed the bunker, buried the weapons under 1 million tons of rock, and ended the Council's last hope of victory. Chancellor Supreme Thex watched it happen from his office in the government complex. He saw human ships in orbit. He saw his defenses shattered. He saw 3,000 years of council authority evaporating, and he made the call he'd sworn he'd never make. This is Chancellor Supreme Thex to all council forces. I hereby order immediate cessation of all hostilities against Earth and its allies. The council surrenders unconditionally. All military units are to stand down. All species are released from their obligations to council authority. The war is over. We have lost. The transmission went out across every council frequency, every military channel, every diplomatic network. And just like that, the Galactic Council, the oldest continuous government in known space, collapsed. President Carter stood in the war room, watching the surrender broadcast. She felt no triumph, no satisfaction, just exhaustion and the weight of what came next. Humanity had won the war. Now they had to win the peace. They had to rebuild a galactic order that wouldn't require periodic genocide attempts to maintain. They had to prove they were better than the council they'd replaced. It would be hard. It would take decades. But humanity had proven something fundamental in this war. When pushed to the brink, when faced with extinction, humans didn't surrender. They innovated. They adapted. They built weapons their enemies couldn't imagine, and strategies their enemies couldn't counter. They turned paranoia into preparation, and preparation into victory. The galaxy would remember the day the Council betrayed Earth. They would remember what humanity's fleet did in response. And they would remember that humans, when threatened, didn't just fight back. They made sure the threat could never rise again. The war was over. Humanity's era was beginning. And the galaxy would never be the same.